Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our final and third webinar in our webinar series on classification disputes. So in this webinar, we'll broadly divide our session into three parts. First is we'll cover the recap, like what all we have learned and discussed in the initial two webinars. Then we'll move forward on reading of customs tariff notes and explanatory notes, HSN explanatory notes. Then we'll come to industry specific issues, and then our way forward is would be same. So starting with a quick recap, we in our first webinar we discussed like what are the objectives of HSN classification and why do we need to do it. So firstly, of course, to decide the correct tariff heading and the rate with respect to GST, BCD, or any other duty. Second is to avail all the exemptions, preferential trade agreements, benefits, FTP benefits, export incentives. So it becomes very important to classify a good under correct entry so that we can avail all the benefits with respect to that. And third is to avoid any exposures or mitigating litigations, because we see that custom authorities are very active these days in holding the consignments, etc., imports to say that the classification is incorrect, and then they are imposing heavy penalties. Then we, in our second webinar, we discussed in detail that what are GIR, General Rules of Interpretation, and how they guide the entire classification exercise. So basically, unless and otherwise provided in specific section or chapter notes, these are the broad principles which guide the classification. Like how do you classify an unassembled article or incomplete good or a composite good or mixture, etc. Then we also discussed with respect to the various codes other than the GIR that are employed by the courts. So we discussed that common parlance test is one of the major tests that is applied by the courts while deciding a classification. That is how industry or consumer perceives a product. Then we discussed the technical meaning test that they also go into the dictionary meanings of the words and scientific processes, etc., to classify a product. And last is end user test. And the last one is, I would say, mostly applied by the industry. They go by, like for all the parts, accessories, etc., they go by the end user thing that in whatever final product it is being used, they classify it as per that heading. But that is not true, because that is not applicable. End user test is not applicable to all the cases. It is applicable only in specific cases wherever the same is provided in the HSN classification, or it has been used by the courts multiple times in particular case. So now coming to the relevance again of the classification, if we see an example that why do we classify, so with respect to fasteners, which is a very prominent dispute whether they are classifiable under their own heading of plastic or metal, or they are classifying as parts and accessories of motor vehicles. So there is a negative judgment of Supreme Court which says they are classifiable as parts and accessories. However, the correct classification is basis their specific heading. So if we see the difference in rates, so there would be a difference in BCD with respect to, if you classify it under their specific heading, it would be 10 to 25. If you classify under parts, it would be 7.5 to 15. There is a clear GST rate difference of 10%, and then there is a difference of drawback also. And we have not covered other, but road tape, etc., also differs with respect to the classification. Similarly, with respect to cosmetics and medicaments, so one of the dispute is whether a product will qualify as a cosmetic or a medicine or medicament. In that also, there is a clear GST rate difference of 6%, BCD rate difference of 10%, and then drawback difference. So if you see this, that is why it becomes relevant to correctly classify a product, because accordingly the duty rates will apply on those products and our product will become costlier or cheaper in the market. Now coming to our main segment of this webinar, that is how do we read custom tariff notes and explanatory notes. So basically the entire tariff is divided into 11 sections. Then there are 98 chapters within those 11 sections. So let's suppose we have to classify a men's shirt, a men's sweatshirt, let's say. So we'll go to the section 11, which says that, sorry, so there are 21 sections, not 11 sections, there are 21 sections and 98 chapters. So we'll go to the 11th section, which covers the textile and textile articles. Then within that, there is a chapter 61, which covers the apparels or articles of apparel and clothing accessories. Now, once we are done with the chapter that, okay, apparels will get covered under chapter 61, now we have to find a relevant chapter heading. If we see for men's sweatshirts, there is a broad heading which says 6105 for men's shirts and 6106 for women's shirt. So now we'll get covered in the 6105. Now we'll have to then go to the subheading. So if our sweatshirt is of cotton, then it will get covered under 610510. And lastly, since it's a sweatshirt, so the 8-digit tariff item would be 61051020. So if you see that this is the broad picture of how do we classify a product. Firstly, we have to select the section, relevant section, then chapter heading, then subheading, and then tariff item. Now coming to the relevance of chapter notes, section notes. So so in every section we have section notes, and they provide the broad coverage of goods in that section. So every section will contain, I would say 3 to 4 chapters or even 10 chapters. So it will tell that overall these 10 chapters will cover these goods, these types of goods, categories of goods. They consist of number of chapters and they explain the scope of section, chapter, headings, etc. Now let's take an example to understand the relevance of section notes. We need to classify nuts, again, fasteners used in AC. So section 15 covers base metal and articles of base metal. So let's suppose it's an iron nut. So we'll go to the section 15. It covers the iron articles. Now section 70, chapter 73 under section 15 covers articles of iron and steel. And then chapter heading 7318 specifically covers nuts. Now, if we go to section 16, it says machinery and mechanical appliances, electrical equipments and parts thereof. Chapter 84 under section 16 says machinery and mechanical appliances, and 8415 covers air conditioner machines. Now, the question is, since our nuts are being used in AC, so will we classify them under their specific heading, which is 7318, or as parts of AC under 8415? Now, if you see till chapter heading, we are not clear that where we need to classify. Now, if we go to the section notes, so note 2B clarifies that parts suitable for use solely or principally with articles of 84, 85 are classified as parts of that heading. So now this says that whatever becomes a part suitable for use solely or principally, so let's suppose these nuts are designed in a manner that they will be used in the AC. So it will be classified as parts of AC. Then note 1G of section 16 comes, which says that if the parts are of general use as defined in note 2, then it will not be classified as parts and accessories and they will go in their specific heading. And note 2 defines parts of general use to include the articles of heading 7318, which is nuts. So now if we see all these notes collectively, notes of section 16 and 15, they collectively aided us in classifying the nuts correctly. Because if we read only note 2 to section 16, we will classify it as parts of AC. But when we go to note 1 of 16 and note 2 of section 15, we'll realize that the correct classification is under their specific heading, that is 7318. Similarly, like as we discussed the relevance of section notes, similarly, even chapter notes provide a aid in classifying the goods. So chapter notes consist of description and scope of the chapter, heading, subheading, and again chapter contains number of headings, subheadings, etc. Now for this, to understand this, let's take an example of a namkeen. So chapter 19 covers preparations of cereals, flour, starch or milk, pastry cooks products. So basically it covers all the preparations of cereals. Then chapter heading 1904 covers prepared foods obtained by the swelling or roasting of cereals or cereal products. For example, cornflakes. Now we all have seen there is a namkeen mixture of cornflakes, wherein a diet mixture we call it. So it's made up of cornflakes. So if we see that it covers the preparation of conflicts by roasting, drying, swelling, etc. So if we go by this, we would say that namkeen is classifiable under this. But now, then chapter 21 comes, which says miscellaneous edible preparations. So this is basically kind of a residuary or a miscellaneous heading. And then 2106 says food preparations not elsewhere specified or included. Again, a very residuary heading. Then if we go to the supplementary note 6 of chapter 21, it says tariff item 21069099 includes products commonly known as namkeens, mixtures, bhujia, chabena, or called by any other name. So even if their ingredients are classified under a separate heading, if they are known as namkeen, it will be classified under 21. Now, if we see 1904 was quite clear that when we roast a conflict, it becomes a namkeen and it should be classified under 1904. But if we go to the note of chapter 21, it clearly says that namkeen has to be classified under 21. So that is how chapter notes become relevant. Because if we don't read the chapter notes or if we don't go to this chapter note, we'll definitely classify it as we will not come to the residuary entry for sure, and we'll say that it's a roasted conflict namkeen and it will be classified under 1904. So now, after discussing the relevance of section notes and chapter notes, the last thing that is relevant and most relevant in classification and all the disputes are around this is HSN explanatory notes. Now, what are HSN explanatory notes? So basically, these are internationally accepted product coding system, that is HSN. So they have persuasive value. So basically, these are adopted globally, and these aid and help of classification globally for all the tariffs, like in other countries as well. These are adopted. Only the 8-digit classification changes with respect to country. Otherwise, 4-digit and 6-digit remain the same. So these are global adopted product coding system, and there have been multiple judgments which say that though they are not statutory principles, but they are approved by the courts and have held to be of persuasive value and can definitely be used to understand the intent and scope of a chapter or a section or a subheading, etc. So basically, if we do the crux, so explanatory notes are not part of law per se. Like we can consider them as akin to circulars under our normal law, that they are not part of statute, but they can definitely help in understanding the scope of chapters, sections, etc. In a better manner. And these are updated generally every 2 to 3 years, and so we need to keep updating them to reach the correct classification. So now my colleague Sainesh will discuss with the help of examples that, like we discussed for chapters and section, that how HSN explanatory notes also completely change the classification. So we'll also run the polls to just have your view that when you go through the section and chapter heading, what is your classification view, and then we'll come to that how that view is changed by the HSN explanatory notes. Yes, Sainesh.
Yeah, thank you, Aasmee. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Aasmee highlighted the legal context of explanatory notes to HSN, so let's take a scenario for a classification of car mat. Let's say the car mat is specifically designed for a car according to its size and according to its shape and fitment. So the relevant section that will come into picture for classification of car mat is Section 17, which deals with vehicles and transport equipments, wherein Chapter 87 specifically covers vehicles, parts, and accessories thereof. And heading 8708 provides qualification of parts and accessories of motor vehicles. On the other ground, another relevant chapter will be Chapter 57 that covers carpets and other textile floor coverings. and heading 5703 covers carpet coverings. The relevant chapter note section note of section 17 provides that part and accessories of a motor vehicle, parts and accessories that have been explained in section 17 do not apply to a illustrative list. And those are vulcanized rubber, parts of general use of base metal, but these do not cover car mat specifically, like in the sense articles of chapter 87. Similarly, note 3 is there, which provides that parts and accessories which have been referred in chapter 87 do not apply to those which are not suitable for solely or principally used with articles of chapter 87.
So if we get to the crux of these section and chapter, so basically chapter heading 8708 covers parts and accessories, and chapter heading 5703 specifically covers carpets and other textile floor coverings. Now, if we go to the section notes, there is a section note 3 which says that if any product is a product used solely or principally with a particular article of chapter 86 to 88, then it has to be classified under that. So as Sainesh discussed, these car mats are cut into the shape as they can only be used in the cars. So as per note 3, it comes out that they are solely and principally for cars. And then there is a note 2b which says that parts and accessories will not apply to a specific list which does not cover these car mats.
Yeah. So still there is a doubt that car mats will be classified as a parts and accessories, and which is a valid doubt as per the section note 2b and note 3. So here comes the relevance of explanatory notes. So explanatory notes to section 17 provides that there are some conditions for classification as parts and accessories in chapter 87. The first is it must not be excluded by note 2 to section 17. It must be suitable for use solely with the articles of chapter 86 to 88. And the third one is it must not be more specifically included elsewhere. So here the point to be noted is that explanatory notes provide an additional condition that if your article is specifically included elsewhere in the nomenclature, vis-a-vis it may be of any of the headings, then it will be classified under that heading. So according to that, the correct classification of car mat will be heading 85703, which specifically deals with carpets and other textile floor coverings. Now here, just one point to highlight, or we all can ponder upon, is that basis section notes or chapter headings, this third condition of specifically included elsewhere by nomenclature was not coming anywhere, but only by explanatory notes, HSN explanatory notes, this has been introduced. So whether HSN explanatory notes can bring in a separate or a new condition that is not there in the customs tariff, that is a question to ask, and I think that is why there are a lot of judgments, Westinghouse, etc., which have disregarded these, which have not considered the HSN explanatory notes. But there have been positive judgments as well, Supreme Court, Uniproducts, etc., wherein they have used the HSN and have highlighted that they have persuasive value and they should be considered while doing any classification. But yes, so even we agree that HSN do have a strong persuasive value and they have to be referred. But the only point we want to highlight here is, can they impose any new condition that is not at all there in the customs tariff, or they can only explain or clarify the things in a better way or in a elaborative way, like circulars. Yeah. So moving on to relevance of explanatory notes to HSN in case of pharmaceutical industry. So let's say we need to classify a product that is acne removal creams. So the relevant section is section 6 that describes products of chemical or allied industries, and chapter 30 that specifically deals with pharmaceutical products, and heading 3004 which provides medicaments. Similarly, on the other hand, chapter 33 is also relevant, which provides essential oils, cosmetic and other toilet preparations. Chapter heading 3304, which provides beauty and makeup preparations for care of skin, will be classified here. And chapter note 1E to chapter 30 provides that preparations of heading 3303 that covers beauty products will be classified in are excluded from chapter 30 if they have some therapeutic or prophylactic properties. That means if your acne removal creams have a property to cure the skin, they have some properties to prevent you from any disease or can improve your skin, then it will be excluded from the chapter 30.
No. So then, so basically they say that even if skincare products, they have a therapeutic property that, so let's suppose acne removal creams, these are basically treated or perceived as the skincare products. Now, even if they have some therapeutic properties, like they are removing the acne, so that is a therapeutic property. So even then, they will remain classified as beauty or skincare products only. That is coming from Note 1E of Chapter 30. That the therapeutic properties will not impact the classification as skincare products. So now we'll run a poll, and you all can give your views as to whether this would be classified as a medicament. Acne removal creams would be classified as a medicament, or it will be classified as a cosmetic product. Yeah, the poll is on your screens. So medicaments are covered under Chapter 30 and cosmetics are covered under Chapter 33. Okay, so 63% people say that these are cosmetics, and 37% people say that these are medicaments. Yeah.
These products, there are multiple jurisprudence that have explained several tests applied by courts for the qualification of these products with respect to medicament or beauty care products. Coming back to explanatory notes to Chapter 33 provides that Chapter 33 covers only those products of beauty care if they contain subsidiary therapeutic value. Whereas Chapter 33 also provides that medical preparations which have a subsidiary cosmetic value will not be covered here. So the relevance of explanatory notes here is that where Note 1E to Chapter 30 was saying that beauty care products having therapeutic properties are excluded, that means any beauty care product, if it have therapeutic property, will be excluded. But Chapter 33 have specifically detail out explanatory notes have detail out that it will contain only if it has a subsidiary therapeutic value and not the primary portion is of therapeutic value.
So basically, what additional condition explanatory notes have brought in this case as well is, if you only go by the chapter notes, then even if a skincare product with 90% therapeutic properties, then it will still be classified as a skincare product, a cosmetic. But if we go to the explanatory notes, they say that only if the therapeutic function is subsidiary, it's only 10%. Then only it will remain classified under cosmetics. If the therapeutic property is the major element or is the primary function, then even if it's a skincare product, it will classify as a medicament. So again, like we discussed in case of CARMATs, explanatory notes, HSN explanatory notes add an additional condition with respect to the classification. And that is why there are a lot of jurisprudence with respect to medicament versus cosmetics, that whether a product's primary function is of care of skin, or it is of the cure or therapy of the skin. And so we'll discuss this in all those judgment in the later part of this webinar. But yeah, here we just wanted to highlight that how explanatory notes add additional conditions and help in classifying the products.
Yeah. So we will now discuss a specific issues in classification industry wide. So we will start with what are the issues in pharmaceutical products in pharma industry. So the major dispute in the pharma industry is whether your products like skincare products, mosquito repellents or hand sanitizers will qualify as a medicament, or it will qualify in the beauty care products heading. So why all these disputes are? Because of the difference in GST rate, where GST rate notification provides GST rate of 12% for medicaments. It provides 18% rate for beauty care products, repellents, and disinfectants. So all these disputes are raised by department is due to the difference in GST rate. Before diving into the specific issues, I will just cover briefly what are the principal tests laid down by the courts in multiple jurisprudence. So the first one is that how these products are generally perceived by the customer. What is the user point of view? That means common parlance test. And another, and the second is what are the ingredients of this product? Are these ingredients of product as per the Ayurvedic textbook in case of Ayurvedic medicine, or these are or these ingredients as per the standards of Indian pharma in case of non-Ayurvedic medicine? Similarly, multiple jurisprudence have applied test of cure versus cure, that whether your product has a nature of curative properties, and the second one and the fourth one is whether your product have a therapeutic or prophylactic properties, that is the properties to heal the disease or to prevent from the transmission of disease. And the last one is whether your product is also used by the customer after it is cured, like the disease has been cured. So starting with the first set of dispute, that is medicament versus beauty product. So for the classification of products like anti-dandruff shampoos, hair oils, the relevant contra entries will be 3003, which provides for medicaments, and 3305, which covers beauty care products. So in case of BPL pharmaceuticals, where the department was disputing that the quantity of medicament that is sulfide is only 2.5%, so your product will not qualify as a medicament. However, the Supreme Court has applied multiple tests in this case, the product has the properties of curative, the ingredients of the product were as per the licensing regulations of Drugs and Cosmetic Act, and also the products are also known in the market as a medicine only, that is sulfide solution. So similarly, in the case of Aswani Homeo Pharmacy, the court held that these hair oils are used to cure the major disease of hair fall, which is prevailing these days, and by applying on the scalp. And also the ingredients are also as per the licensing regulations, and in the common parlance also it is known as medicine. So in all these decisions of Supreme Court, it has been held that it will qualify as a medicament. So in our view also, these tests are these principles laid down by the court are correct, and the correct classification of these products are medicament only. So yeah, coming to the classification of products like crack creams, massage oils, and acne solutions, where the contra entries will be medicament versus beauty product only. So in the case of Science Laboratories and Hindustan Unilever Limited, the Supreme Court held that in these products also, like crack creams, it has the properties to cure the cracked feet and to repair the dry skin. So it has the curative properties. Ingredients are also as per the licensing regulations. However, in market, these products are known as not known as the medicinal products. It will qualify as medicament only. Similarly, in the case, however, in the case of Sunny Industries, the classification of product was related to the massage vitamin oil. So court held that there is no curative properties in that product, so it will not be classified as a medicament. Similarly, appellate authority in the case of Akansha Hair and Skincare also held that the oils do not have the curative properties to treat the disease, so it will not qualify as a medicament.
So basically, if we see the dispute around medicament versus beauty products, so courts have applied multiple tests, but the most prominent test that have come out of all the judgment is with respect to the properties of the product. So whether it's a curative or it's a care product. And with respect to curative, so the expression says it has to be therapeutic or prophylactic. Now, when we go to the dictionary meanings of prophylactic, so it says that anything designed to prevent a disease, it also comes into that expression. So medicaments cover even the things that prevent a disease. So let's suppose this anti-dandruff shampoo, if it helps that you don't get the dandruff, or the oils or the acne creams that prevent the acne, etc., or those who treat also and prevent also. So in all these cases, they said that In some of the cases, the courts have disregarded this concept also, but in many cases, they have accepted, the Supreme Court has also accepted that preventive element is also a medicament element, and that is why they have to be classified as medicaments and not as cosmetics. But then they also went with the common parlance test, that how you are selling it in the market, and then whether the products are classifiable as drugs under Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So drugs under Drugs and Cosmetics Act have been very widely defined. They even cover all the ointments, etc., that you apply on skin as mosquito repellent, because they also prevent mosquitoes to bite and then prevent you from dengue, etc. So in all these cases, they have applied multiple tests, but ultimately you have to see whether your product is more of a therapeutic product, a preventive product for any disease, or it is simply a skincare product. And on those bases, you have to classify your products.
In case of for the products like antiseptic liquids like Dettol, in the case of Reckitt Benckiser and ICPA healthcare products, Supreme Court highlighted that these Dettols have the nature of preventing you from any disease. These are generally applied at the time of use at the time of bathing. Also, these are also used at the time before the surgery to sanitize the equipments, and overall these are used to heal the wounds. So it has the prophylactic use, and Supreme Court in this case also observed what is the meaning of prophylactic. So it held that prophylactic means to prevent you from any disease, which are intended to prevent you from any disease. So in also Supreme Court noted that in the common parlance these are known as antiseptic, and hence this will qualify as medicament only. And in our view, this ruling is correct, and products like Dettol will qualify as medicament only. However, on the other hand, authorities in the case of same pharmaceuticals and Wipro Enterprises held that products like hand sanitizers, alcohol-based hand sanitizers do not have curative properties. Their ingredients do not have prophylactic properties. And also in the common parlance, these are known as a hand hygiene product rather than a medicine. So they held that these are the disinfectants which will fall under heading 3808. But however, in our view, we can distinguish this with the facts, with the decision laid down by the court, Supreme Court's discussed above, that these hand sanitizers also have prophylactic properties. That is, it prevents you from the disease. So preventing you, as Aasmee also highlighted, that preventing you from a disease is also a determinative factor for a product to qualify as a medicament.
And if we talk about hand sanitizers in the entire COVID period, they were used to avoid contamination with COVID virus. So they were used as a preventive measure to avoid contacting with COVID virus and then having COVID.
So for the products like mosquito repellents with like Odomos, there is also a dispute that whether it will qualify as a repellents under heading 3808. So the jurisprudence in the case of Davar India Limited and Sukla Asar Impex, that is the Gujarat AAR, these judgments held that mosquito repellents do not have prophylactic properties. These are per se do not use for the cure of the skin, cure of any disease, and also not to prevent you from any disease. And in the common parlance also, these are known as the mosquito repellents only, and this will fall under disinfectants. However, the court also gave an observation that these products are generally available in the stores and the counters, and these are sold without the prescription of doctor or chemist, so it will qualify under the repellents only. However, in our view, these repellents also fall under the medicament only, because there are multiple Supreme Court judgments where it has been held that doctor's prescription for a product is not a determinative factor. Even if a product is available over the counter, that will not determine the how your product will qualify. So looking at all the jurisprudence and the major disputes raised by department, we need to separately analyze that whether our products will fall under medicaments or other headings with respect to the ingredients of the product, licensing regulations, how it is known in the common parlance, how it is perceived by customer, and many other factors.
And if if you want to know that why these disputes are, so basically disinfectants or repellents, all these things are specifically covered under 3808. But then there is an exclusion to these headings which say that if these disinfectants or repellents have a properties of medicament, then they will qualify as medicament. So ultimately, the test comes down to on the same thing, that whether they have the properties of a medicament. And in our view, since all these things, even odomas prevents you from biting of a mosquito and then causing dengue, etc. So in all these cases, they have a preventive function from a disease, and hence we can definitely contest basis the facts and other parameters that they should be classifiable under medicaments and attract lower rate of duties. So moving next with respect to another industry. So we just covered the pharma industry and the disputes, some of the disputes, of course, there are many. Now we'll move to the next industry, the automobile industry. So the categories of dispute we have bifurcated. So first, very common categories, parts versus general use. And we have already discussed with respect to the fasteners in our previous slides that how the courts have been classifying them as under 8708 and attracting higher rate of duties. However, the correct classification is 7318. Now coming to other parts. So let's again, we all are aware of the relays for railways, and in Westinghouse it classified as parts of railways. However, the correct classification again, since they are excluded by note 2, so the correct classification is under their specific heading, that is relays. So in our view, the judgment was incorrect, and then instruction was also issued and everything. Then there have been multiple other judgments that support this view that if a particular product is excluded by note 2, that we discussed in the initial part of this session, that if things are excluded by note 2, they will go to their respective headings. So similar to relays, even ACs have their specific headings. So there was a triple AR after Westinghouse, which distinguished the Westinghouse, calling it as fact specific, and said that ACs have to be classified under their specific heading. And similarly, there was a judgment, Supreme Court judgment in past with respect to car seats, that they are classifiable under their respective heading and not as parts of motor vehicles. Similarly, textile car mat we have discussed in the previous slide. So again, there are multiple contradictory rulings on this case. Then coming to instrument clusters, which is again a very big dispute under the automobile industry. So the contesting entries are 9029 or 31, or again parts of motor vehicles. So there have been only negative judgments with respect to this, which classify them as parts of motor vehicles. In our view, the correct classification should be 9029, because as we discussed the GIR, so GIR say that if there is a combination of goods, then they have to be classified if a particular product is giving them the composition as essential character as per that. And if you cannot decide that what product gives the essential character, then whatever entry is the last entry. So if we talk about instrument clusters, there are multiple things: speedometer, odometer, screen, etc., multiple things. But what we have seen is in the two-wheelers, the speedometer gives them the essential character, and accordingly they should be classified as 9029. Or even if they cannot, we cannot decide that any product gives them the essential character, then also the last heading would be 9031. So in any case, 8708 should not be the heading, but the courts have held otherwise. Next dispute is with respect to part versus accessory. So let's take an example of car seat adjuster. So the contesting entries are 9401 and 8708. 9401 covers seats and its parts, and 8708 again parts and accessories of motor vehicles. So there have been judgments, and fortunately positive judgments on this regard, which say that the classification is 8708, and in our view also it should be 8708, because 9401 only covers seats and its parts, and seat adjuster has been held by the Supreme Court and many ARs that these are not the parts, because this is not the essential element of a seat, but more of an accessory that you can use for better use of seat. You can always have the seat adjusters or covers for better and improved use of seats. So to that extent, these will not qualify as seat parts, but will become the part and accessories of motor vehicles. So there have been multiple correct rulings on this case. Now, this was with respect to the automobile industry. Now we'll quickly come to the consumer durable industry. So again, part versus specific dispute is there. Recently, there was a case of Videocon for LCD panels. The contesting entries were 9013 and 8529. 9013 covers specifically the LCD panels and 8529 covers parts of monitors, etc. So Videocon Industries rightly held that it should be classifiable under its specific heading, again excluded by Note 2. And it says that Note 2 says that articles of Chapter 90 should go to their respective heading and not as parts. So correct judgment, again, distinguishing to that extent distinguishes Westinghouse and correctly says that Note 2 exclusion should be applied and Note 3 should not prevail in those cases where there is a specific exclusion. So the correct heading should be 9013. Now it has been changed in the updated CTA, it is 8524. Then another dispute is with respect to vacuum cleaners. So vacuum cleaners are specifically covered under 8508 by nomenclature, and then 8509 covers electric home domestic appliances. So the dispute arises is whether vacuum cleaner should go into their respective heading or as electric domestic appliances. Now there have been contradictory rulings, and surprisingly, the fact that rulings have discussed is that if a vacuum cleaner is for industrial use, it will go under their respective heading of vacuum cleaner 8508. However, if it is for domestic use, it will go under 8509. However, there is no such distinction under the HSN or chapter notes. And in our view, a vacuum cleaner, since it is by nomenclature covered under 8508, they should be classified under 8508 only and not under domestic home appliances. Then coming to another dispute with respect to primary versus incidental use. So you would have heard of this dispute whether tablets are classifiable as phones, mobile phones, or computers. So the contesting entries are telephones or mobile phones or versus computers. So there have been case laws which say that since for tablets, the primary function is more of a computer, data processing, and only because of technology advancement, they also have the function of attending calls, etc., receiving calls. They do not become the mobile phones and they will remain to be the ADP machines only. In our view, these rulings are correct, but here we would like to highlight that if we talk about today's time, even a mobile phone is an ADP machine. It contains all the functions that you can perform from a computer, you can perform from the mobile phone as well. So one of the major aspects under HSN classification or classification of goods is that we need to see the technology advancement and upgradation as well. Because when these CTAs were designed and when HSN explanatory notes were designed, the technology was not that upgraded as it is now. So if you see the speakers, the monitors that are explained in these notes are very basic ones, and they do not contain the smart features of Bluetooth, etc., and other connectivity. And when we, like on day-to-day basis, when we classify the products for our clients, we realize that it's not always that everything would be mentioned in the HSN, that it should have these many ports. And because of technology advancement, you have to read many things and understand many things in an updated manner. So in those cases, maybe foreign jurisprudence helps, that since they have acknowledged, or the technology that has come later in India has come much before there, so we can always take the help of foreign jurisprudence. But yes, so one important factor we want to highlight here is that technology advancement is also one of the major criteria that you must keep in mind while classifying a product, because you might not find everything written in HSN or custom tariff. Lastly, with respect to FMCG industry, since we had short of time and there are a lot of disputes on FMCG industry itself, we can have a separate webinar also. but just to cover two major disputes because of short of time. So one is with respect to the soft serve ice cream that is served by McDonald's. So the contesting entries are whether they would be classifiable as ice creams under 2105 or they would be classifiable as dairy products or milk products. So the judgment, Supreme Court judgment says it should be classifiable as ice creams. So the test they applied is that normally soft serve is known as ice cream in the market. A customer perceives it as a ice cream, and the nomenclature or the common name used in the industry is as ice cream. However, the dispute that was raised by the department was that the technical process of making a soft serve is not similar to what is used in ice cream, and the ingredients also. So there is a specific percentage of fat that should be there in ice cream, and soft serve does not contain it, and it is in a semi-liquid form, while ice cream has to be in a solid form. So many disputes were raised, but again, the court simply went with the common parlance test that these are understood as ice creams, so they have to be classified as ice creams. In our view, also in many of the cases and products, especially in FMCG products and food products, you have to go by the common parlance test, and they serve the uh, major help in classifying a product, even if the HSN or the customs tariff strict reading is stating otherwise. Similar dispute is with respect to Malabar Paratha. So the classification contesting entries were 1905 and 2106. 1905, so 2106 covers basically food preparations, etc. And 1905 covers ready-to-eat products. And 2106 covers breads, etc. So there have been case laws which say that these would be covered under 2106 and not under 1905. The test that they have applied is that these are not ready-to-eat items. You have to like oil it, butter it, and cook it for a minute on a utensil, and then only you can eat it. It is not similar to khakra that you can just open and eat. So even though 1905 covers ready-to-eat items, it covers the breads, etc. In our view, even if they are not ready to eat, uh, like the process that is involved in making it ready to eat is very minimal. I would say the 1% that you only have to cook it, heat it basically, and then apply the oil or butter, etc., and then it will be ready to eat. So to that extent, in our view, when these rulings have held that these are more of food preparations and not ready to eat items, so, in our view, it is incorrect. And since 1905 specifically cover breads, and in common parlance test also, paratha is understood as Indian breads, roti, chapati, etc. And those should get covered under 1905 only, and not as residuary under 2106. So now coming to the way forward, that is basically similar, that we should take expert opinion in case of complex classification. We should regularly recheck the classifications that are adopted by the suppliers in imports and trading cases. Like we should not just blindly take the classification that our CHA is taking or our suppliers have taken, and regular exercise should be taken, and we need to be updated with the changes with respect to customs tariff also. And as we highlighted, HSN explanatory notes also keep on updating regularly in 2-3 years, so we need to be updated about them as well. And in case of any anomaly that is not getting solved, or a product is getting classified in multiple headings, then we can always seek representation before CBIC or GST Council. So we'll wind up the session here. And thank you so much for joining. We hope that we could help you all with this 3 webinar series to understand the classification disputes. How do we basically read HSN and customs tariff, and how do we reach to the correct classification, and how important it is. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you, everyone.